You're listening to the Dwell on These Things podcast. I'm John Stange, and it's great to have you with us this week. As always, we have a very special bonus interview. Today, I have a special guest, someone that I have the privilege to work with, and his name is Sean McAvoy. And Sean McAvoy is the executive director of content for Christianity.com. He also works with the Salem Media Group and does a whole bunch of things. And so, Sean, welcome to the Dwell on These Things podcast.
Thank you, John. We love having you on Christianity.com and happy to meet your audience today.
Well, we're happy to have you here. And I thought, because of the fact that I have been partnering with Christianity.com for a little over a year and working together, that it might be fun for our listeners to just take a peek into the ministry of Christianity.com and the content that you guys are putting out there. I'll give our audience a tiny bit of background. A little over a year ago, you may have noticed that my podcast became part of the Life Audio Podcasting Network, and that's under the Salem Media Group umbrella, as is Christianity.com. And if you go to the Christianity.com website, you'll find all kinds of resources, all kinds of articles, various topics. And the articles that I share at BibleStudyHeadquarters.com also appear at Christianity.com. We have a partnership and we work together to share that content. And so you could check it out both places. But again, at Christianity.com, you'll find a ton of other resources. So, Sean, I guess my first question for you would be this. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in helping to produce this kind of Christian content that you're putting out there at Christianity.com and in other places.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity, John. It's interesting to be on here and have a chance to talk about this because when Salem Web Network bought the Christianity.com URL, and what a great URL, right? I mean,
Yeah.
hard to get better than that. In 2005, that was my in to get hired and come on board in an editorial capacity with that brand and that URL. And amazingly enough, it really took us a long time to figure out exactly what we wanted to do with this URL. Originally, we had a church directory on there, which this shows you how much things change. They stay the same. We just re-added a church directory this year to the site. So these things come and go. But for a long time, we were just adding the best links around the web to it. That didn't work well. We went through a really strange phase from maybe 2008 to 2012 where the site was brown along the lines, thinking about like an old family Corinthian leather King James Bible. Then we kind of went with more of a theological, high-minded view of it. And then the site really just lived for a little while just on the Bible trivia and the online Bible that are there, which are still great resources. But it really took off maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we wanted to compete with sites like Got Questions that were building really good online wikis with a lot of questions and answers, more seeker friendly than the sites that we cater to some of the rest of our audience, like Crosswalk or Bible Study Tools, that have their own built-in audience, but where people could come and find real legit answers about Christianity. I can't remember who said the quote. I deal with so many different folks and things they say and articles throughout my life, but that someone said Christianity is the only faith that really does have an answer for anything. You may not like the answer. It may take you a while to wrestle with it, but there's an answer there, and we can get to that. So we provided an online wiki that really kind of took off, and we got a lot of traffic from Google searches. Well, in recent years, we wanted to kind of jump on top of that and piggyback on top of that success to create what we think should be the best stewardship we can give a URL like this, which is to make it a real destination website with some of the best minds and influencers and thinkers like yourself and others who we've been adding in recent years to come over and share your take. We just added J.D. Greer in a recent Ask the Pastor column we're real excited about. So, let's make it let's go back to the days where people had to bookmark a site, where they really wanted to start their day, find out, okay, what are people talking about over on Christianity.com? What are the issues affecting the faith today? What are some adjacent topics in the news or in my world right now where I can find practical applications, resources, and trusted thought from people who are going to, try and play this as close as they can down the middle of the biblical fairway for me, and I can find some good resources and truth there.
I love that. And I wonder, There's obviously a lot involved in maintaining a site like this, and I know that you partner together with a whole variety of editors and other people that are making sure that the site operates properly and looks properly. But your role is, if I understand it right, to really oversee the content that goes up on this website. Is that a good way to describe your role?
Yeah, less the content now. That has been my role for a lot in recent years. More the team now that is putting that content up and providing direction to them. It's difficult for me. I got into this to be an editor
Mhm.
and to create the content and to be involved with other content creators. So I miss that aspect a lot as I've kind of ascended up the chain despite my best efforts. But but yes, I work very closely. You mentioned Meg Bucher, who is our fantastic editor of the site. People love working with Meg. And so I am in touch with her very regularly on ideas she has for the site, on ideas her contributors have, on things we can be doing. And so just recently, like she was like, can we do more with video content this way? And started a new Christianity.com Instagram page for short form video that a lot of people are using these days.
Mhm.
Um, and people were telling us they wanted more downloadables and more printables, more PDFs. So some 8-week study guides or some Bible studies or some prayer guides for our plus content. We have a separate subscription level of content on
Mhm.
Christianity.com as well. So we put those things there for those users. So there's always something new and innovative that we're trying to think of. And yes, I do have a hand in that, but mostly my job is, yeah, great idea, green light, go do it.
Nice. And you mentioned Meg. I have the privilege to work with Meg each week as she's editing content. Very much appreciate her role there as well. And I wonder, when you found yourself being, I guess, being a content creator for a season and then content editor, there had to be something in your past or even just in your wiring that inspired you to pursue a career path like that. What would you say really inspired you to go in this direction career wise?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a story I tell often because there's a lot of, God moments in this, but I went to Oklahoma Baptist University in 1989 to be a youth ministry major. And it was actually through working at a Christian summer camp that I realized, I'm really good at this, but I don't necessarily need a degree in this to do this. So I switched my major to English. And later on down the road, as after I got married, my wife was doing well and she'd earned her master's degree. I decided to get my master's in writing and rhetoric here in Richmond, Virginia, at Virginia Commonwealth University. And people would always ask, this was around 2000, what do you want to do with that? And I'd say, I really want to be a Christian website editor. And they're all like,
Mhm.
that's a thing? Yeah, that's a thing. You're going to see that being more of a thing. Um, Now, the funny part about it is I always assumed I'd have to go to somewhere like Chicago or Colorado Springs or Dallas, where all the ministries were.
Mhm.
Had no idea the Salem Web Network, with over 20 different Christian website URLs, was located right here in my backyard in Richmond.
Wow.
And was able to come on right when they bought that Christianity.com URL in 2005, and have been here ever since, and have had so many roles during that time. Been fortunate to write a lot for the sites, do a lot of video content, even had our own podcast for a while. So it's been real fulfilling to be able to see the journey and the growth of all these websites and have a hand in it.
Love it. What's a typical day in your life look like as you're working with the staff that you work with and producing the content that you're producing? What's it look like?
A lot of idea generation and meetings and strategy these days, especially as we're in another, what I like to call a sea change of what the internet looks like. We've been through about three, four, five of them during my time here, and and now that it's a lot more unedited short form video, um, and Google is changing the way that they respect ranking and authority.
Mhm.
A lot of my day right now is trying to figure out, and this is a great thing because we've learned, one thing we've learned is that as more of our people go to conferences or hear things or get advice about what's working out there, the real message that we hear back all the time is serve your dedicated users, serve your audience, provide the best that you can for them, and double and triple down on that.
Mhm.
So as part of my daily work, it's being in contact with our team of about 8 editors. And then we also work with the content team at godtube.com, which is another one of our brands, and some of our inspirational sites, to share content across those, make sure that we're in constant communication, which also is a bit of a challenge now that we're all virtual. That was something we never thought we would do. We're all like, no, we will never do that. You can't work from home when you work for us. We've got to be collaborative and in office. Well, we learned something coming through 2020 and 2021, and that's that you really can trust people to do a great job from home. And sometimes you have to get them to stop working because they work too much now that they don't have to commute. But yeah, so a lot of time it's just mostly constant communication and really trying to find out what are the stories out there, what are people searching on, what do people need to know, so that both with our wiki and with the contributors that we're bringing in, and that's, I think you've probably worked a little bit with Jana Bailey and our content acquisition team, and so liaising with them as they look to find other folks who are doing some really cool stuff out there who might like to have a presence on Christianity.com as well.
Excellent. So what are you working on right now that excites you the most?
Oh, probably the right now the initiative to get a real presence for Christianity.com Instagram. A lot of times we have not just gone out and done something because we need to find a way to monetize it first, which is a little bit of a push-pull, and it's always a thing that we're going to have to deal with, is being a part of a publicly traded for-profit company, but also responsible for a URL like Christianity.com. There's just a natural push-pull there that you're all like, and so that's another thing that I viewed in my role as something that's very important to guard that and not go too far either way, but to say we've really got to toe the line here. So yeah, so when we find an opportunity that is more for branding purposes, it's kind of fun that we're like, oh, we could just go out and try something like this now, just to be somewhere, just to have a presence, just to introduce ourselves to another audience. Probably that's the most exciting to me, because one bit of data that we found in the past year was, ever since I came to Salem, all of our websites, from Crosswalk to I Believe to One Place, had a demographic of users that was 55 and older. With Christianity.com, after that wiki went live, that came 18 to 25. And that was really exciting to me and to everyone that we work with, because it was, oh, wow, look, these young people really are asking questions and really do want to know. And this is opening us up to a segment that we, generally our websites were not serving. So that's part and parcel with the Instagram idea too.
Excellent. And you kind of answered this to a degree, but I wonder if there's maybe even more that you could tell us about it. So you said you're reaching new demographics, which is exciting, and you're attempting some short form video and doing some things with Instagram. And I wonder, are there other trends that you're starting to see in just either online publications or faith-based publications, things like that Christianity.com is trying to tap into or has a vision to tap into maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I can give you two real good examples. One is the use of, and I was just in a meeting about this on Friday, with a company that we may go with, but they've got some pretty cool technology that's already built that we might be able to bring in an AI assistant to our site. Now, we wouldn't do it until it was we could really make sure. We've noticed that one of the challenges with AI in the Christian space is that it doesn't often get the theology or the nuances correct. So, but an assistant on the site that can help you find what you need, create better,
like a search assistant,
personalize it. Yeah, so personalization is really one of those things. The other is community, and that, this is another example of the more things change, the more they stay the same. When I first came in, we had vast online forums, which with a lot of dedicated users, and our users would volunteer to help moderate. Well, now we've noticed just in the past year, Google is giving a lot of respect and authority to places like Reddit and Quora, which is really interesting to me, because they always told us that they were all about authority, but now it's just forums where anyone can answer any question that they're putting at the top of their page. So we've had to find a way to say, okay, how are we going to bring back our forums to create, and again, double down on something I mentioned earlier, really responding to our dedicated users and giving them a place to discuss things. So those are two of the directions we're going to go, is personalization and focus on community, and look to how we can bring back our own type of community forums.
Excellent. That sounds very practical, and I could see people making use of both of those approaches. And I wonder, I have, I guess, just a couple final questions for us as we approach wrapping up. But one question that I'm always curious about, you know, in my lane, in my world, I'm always creating content, and so sometimes that involves writing. Often it involves writing, but it also involves recording either audio or video, and so I'm doing that quite regularly. And you deal with all kinds of content that you're sharing online, sharing on the website, and you've been doing that for decades now. And so I wonder what kind of advice you would give to someone who maybe is looking to either write or record or do different things like that that allow them to share faith-based content online, where they are very concerned about sharing their faith, sharing their perspective, the things that the Lord's revealed to them through his word. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to do that more and more in the online space?
Probably my first recommendation would be to find a place where you can start simply, maybe even by writing devotionals that get you into the habit of writing something regularly. We run several in-house devotionals, for example, through Crosswalk and Christianity.com, where we work with freelancers, and that's a lot of times how they'll get their start,
Mhm.
and get their foot in the door. They get known, people like what they have to say, and then they start getting a feel for what that online content world looks like, and really for what topics they have a passion for, or they're good at explaining, or they have some good illustrations in a way that makes something more accessible to someone. So that's where I would start. But again, that's also another way that you can do that is the handheld unedited raw video of 5 minutes or less of just a thought about a scripture verse or a topic is also just such a powerful tool right now.
Mhm.
People will access that through any number of different mediums, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and it can work real well. We have people just throwing stuff like that up on our GodTube brand right now.
Mhm.
So those are some great places to start. And then it's interesting because just earlier today, our marketing manager was telling me she's seeing blogs are making a comeback.
Mm.
So that's an option too that I might recommend getting into. And that's how we used to pick up most of our contributors, is go find out who was writing the exciting blogs that people were finding.
Yeah, that's I believe that's how I became a contributor. Most of the content that I share with Christianity.com is content that I also share on my blog. So that's
Yeah.
exciting, although we're connected through the podcast space as well, which is certainly a blessing as well. Final question. When you think about all of these things, anytime we're sharing the gospel, anytime we're helping people dig into the word of God, we're hoping that that makes an impact on lives, and we're hoping that helps people grow in their walk with Jesus Christ. That's certainly what I get excited about. I know you get excited about that as well. And so I guess maybe the way I'd phrase the question is, when you think about this in your lane, when you think about this with the stewardship that the Lord has given you, how do you describe that impact in your own mind? Or if you had to describe that impact to somebody else, what kind of impact do you really hope that your efforts and the efforts of Christianity.com really make in the online world and just anyone that's accessing what you do?
John, referencing an earlier question when you asked me kind of how I got into this, and I would tell people, if I just get to write one thing one day that moves or saves or impacts one person, that would be enough. And even today, people are asking me, why haven't you written more, any books? And I have nothing against that, and God bless the people who do. But one of the things that I saw over the years was the number of books that we would get sent, review copies that would pile up on my desk, and knowing that I could go write a devotional or an article tomorrow, and it would get seen by 10,000 people the next day. That was that was super fulfilling. And that was a real sacred trust to know that you're putting something out there. And it can be hard. We have people who want to know what is the theological take of Christianity.com? What does the website believe, or what do the editors believe? And we really do our best not to try to take a denominational stance on that, or but more of a look. If you can make a biblical case for what you're saying, and put it out there in a way that's going to be practical to people and that they can understand, then really it's fair game what you're going to be able to talk about if this is a subject that touches on faith and the Christian walk in any way. And so that's where we try to hold that. That's what I consider as, especially as we become more fractured, as really the thing that gets me up in the morning to do what I do is to be as unified as we can, while recognizing that you shouldn't expect to agree with everything you're going to read or hear on a site like Christianity.com, because there are topics, we know a lot of them. Alcohol, for instance. What does alcohol use look like for a Christian? Where you can make a biblical case in different directions, and you might read about each one of those different directions on a site like Christianity.com. But where over time, if you're wrestling with this topic, we hope that we can help you find the right answer, that we are able to develop some equilibrium and grow in other areas of your life after that.
Very good. Sean, I really appreciate you carving out time for our audience today. It's certainly been a blessing to work with you and to talk with you. And Sean McAvoy is the executive director of content for Christianity.com. He works with Salem Media Group, and I've had the opportunity, like I said, to work with them for a little bit over a year, and I really consider it a privilege, and was thinking recently, I think it's about time I bring somebody on from the site to just introduce you guys to my audience, and let people know that you've got those resources there. So Christianity.com, great place to visit. Sean, as we wrap up here, any other place that you'd like them to go?
BibleStudyTools.com and Crosswalk.com, and of course, Life Audio for all your podcast needs, where you are housed. John, we are thrilled to have you over there. And that is, we're thrilled to be a part of a growing podcast network as well.
Wonderful. Sean, thanks so much for being a guest with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.